Right now, I am in Luxembourg in the city of Wiltz. And on September the 10th of 1944, this city was liberated from Nazi tyranny by the men of the 28th Infantry Division. As a matter of fact, you can see a memorial right back here that is dedicated to the men of the 28th. And after their fight here in Wiltz, the men of the 28th would go on to fight in the Hurtgen Forest, where they would be absolutely torn apart. And after their ordeal in the Hurtgen, they ended up being relocated back here to this area, which was kind of a quiet area of the front where they could get some rest and get refitted. Well, that rest was going to come to an abrupt end on December 16th of 1944, when the Germans launched Operation Watch on the Rhine, which was this massive offensive through the Ardennes, and the 28th was going to face the full brunt of that. General Norman Cota, who was the general of the 28th, had his headquarters right here in Wiltz, and they would have to evacuate on the 19th. But that would not be the end for the people in this area, because coming up from the south was going to be Patton's Third Army, and with them was the men of the 26th Infantry Division. Alright, we have moved out of Wiltz, and we are at the memorial site of a place called Schumann's Eck, which was a crossroads not too far from Wiltz. And they have a pretty good map over here that does a good job at helping us to visualize the troop movements that were happening here in late December of 44. Now, like I said, on this map from this part of the Ardennes front, we get a good view of the troop movements from Patton's Third Army that are moving in to relieve the guys who are besieged at Bastogne. So just to give you a frame of reference, you got Bastogne right up here with the 101st Airborne and the 10th Armored Division primarily in that perimeter. There were some 28th Infantry Division guys who had stayed behind and other elements, but those were the two major divisions that were there. And Patton is going to be advancing along this broad front to not only relieve the beleaguered defenders of Bastogne, but to also cut off the Germans who were trying to supply the ones who had besieged Bastogne. So on the left, we've got the 4th Armored Division. They are going to be, wow, that is a loud truck. They are going to be advancing up and hitting Bastogne. On their right is going to be the 26th Infantry Division. Okay, they are going to be moving up the middle. And then to the right of the 26th Infantry Division, right through here, kind of in this purple, that is going to be the 80th Infantry Division. And again, what they are trying to do is to move up through here and cut off the Germans who are resupplying this perimeter right here. And then you've got the 90th Infantry Division and the 6th U.S. Cavalry Group that are going to be taking over. And right here is where we are at Schumann's Eck. Now, there is more to this memorial site, and we're going to come back here in a little while. But for right now, we're going to go down the road and enter into these woods right here to see what we can see from the remnants of the fighting that took place here in December of 44. As you are approaching the woods, they have a memorial that is set up here that says, "In memory of all the soldiers who died in these woods in winter 1944 to 1945. And then they have, some information panels over here that tell a little bit about the Battle of the Bulge. And these woods have been kind of converted to a large memorial. There is a memorial trail that snakes through this area that we are going to walk today. I've never been here before, so I'm going to be learning a lot of new things myself. And yeah, we're going to see what we can learn about what happened here in December of 44. All right, we've made our way a little bit more into the woods, and you might hear some equipment running in the background. There are some guys here who are doing some general maintenance work, it looks like. Oh. Well, this looks like a foxhole. Huh. Yeah. And then here's another foxhole. So these are likely American foxholes, I think, that we are looking at. And yeah, I'm just kind of walking around here and looking, and here's another one right here. Interesting. So as you're walking through these woods, for those who have watched the video that I did at the Bulge, or maybe you have been there yourself, you can kind of contrast. Here's another one right over here. You can kind of contrast these foxholes with the foxholes that you see there. These foxholes, of course, over the past several decades have filled in with leaf litter and branches and all kinds of stuff. The ones that you see like at the Bulge are more all freshened up. All right, so they've been redug by reenactors and things like that. But anyway, yeah, looks like we just passed through our first round of foxholes here in the woods. So the time that I am filming all of this is in the middle of December. No snow on right now, but it's still just pretty darn cold. And one of the things that I have found striking is how little daylight there is this time of year. I mean, it doesn't seem to get like really decent day. I mean, it's daylight cracks at 8:30, but it doesn't get like really good light, it seems like, until 9:30. Here's another foxhole right here. So one of the things that I've thought about, there's another one right over there. One of the things that I've thought about is, man, how miserable must it have been to be in one of these foxholes all night long, especially with how long the nights are this time of year. It just must have been absolutely miserable for these guys. We are continuing our walk around this loop here in the forest, and just came upon this display right here. So for the Americans and the Germans, they fought here for a short time and then they moved on, but the war remained for the local citizens. There was all kinds of unexploded ordnance that was either on the surface or buried just beneath the ground. So here they give examples of some of the artillery that might have been left behind, or mortar rounds or things like that, grenades. So I've been places myself and have found grenades, found one on Saipan, and for the people who were behind, well, that could be quite dangerous. Okay, and then here we see some shell fragmentation. So just imagine these artillery rounds exploding in the woods and that stuff flying all over the place. I mean, it would just cut your arm off or do all kinds of damage with these jagged edges. They would also have tree bursts, to where these things would be timed to explode in the air and then would explode in the trees, and then not only send these metal shell fragments everywhere, but also splinters and pieces of the trees all over the place. Yeah. Interesting that they've included this. I like this. Walking down the path a little further, we just came upon this sign right here, which says "Road cleared of mines to ditches." And then here you can see the insignia of the 90th Infantry Division, nicknamed the Tough Hombres, who were also in this area. And to kind of further immerse you into the place where you are, another thing that they've added along this trail are some cutouts from some archival photos. So here we can see a combat engineer who is clearing a mine off of the road. Got another one over here with his metal detector, clearing the road to the ditches. Yeah, that's really cool that they've implemented this on this trail. Our next information stop here along the trail talks about the wounded during the Battle of the Bulge and the work of the medics. Of course, in these conditions, you're not only dealing with, typical battle injuries, but also the cold. So the medics were absolute heroes, not only in this battle, but in all of the battles that were fought throughout the European campaign. I'm not 100% sure, but if memory serves correctly, this is not Battle of the Bulge. That's from the Hurtgen Forest, but it still talks about the medics. But anyway, and then if you go over here, well, we've got another one of these cutouts showing a soldier who looks to be having some issues with frostbite on his feet and is being treated by one of the medics. We're moving into a section of woods that again is just completely dotted with these foxholes, and here in this moss-covered ground you can actually see them a little bit better. And appropriately, well, they've got a high concentration of these cutouts right here in the midst of all of these foxholes. And this section of the woods really gives you a good idea of how thick these woods could be in places, which of course is going to severely limit your visibility. So this was one violent slog to push through these woods and to push these Volksgrenadiers who were manning this position for the German side to push them out. And then if we walk over here, one other thing that I want to show you. Now, this is a big old bomb crater that was left by the explosion of a 500-pound bomb. So here you can see that represented right here. Now, it would have been pretty rare for the airmen to drop bombs around Schumann's Eck. Just for one, it's incredibly thick through here, so you're really running the risk of a blue-on-blue situation or a friendly fire. If I'm not mistaken, I think this bomb crater was also used as a temporary grave for both Germans and Americans. Then, of course, after the battle moved on, the bodies were removed and then were placed in more permanent locations. I'm going to go ahead and admit, when I first started walking into these woods right off of the parking lot, at first I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is really going to be worth it or not. But now that I've got here really deep back into the woods, like, this is really, really interesting. And I like what they've done with all of this by like placing these cutouts next to the foxholes and again kind of immersing you in the experience. When I was walking through the woods and could see all of these cutout figures in the distance, it evoked kind of an interesting feeling as I was approaching it. But anyway, I got one more thing that we are going to show, and then we're going to head out of here. We've moved back over to the Liberation Memorial Site here at Schumann's Eck, and I wanted to show a little bit of what they've integrated into this memorial, because they've done a really magnificent job, I think. So here on this plaque it says Allied forces engaged in Luxembourg 1944 to 1945, and then it lists all of the infantry divisions, like the 4th, the 5th, the 26th that we just went over, the 28th. Okay, so all of the infantry divisions and the armored divisions. There's one airborne division that was engaged here, the 17th Airborne. Also, they give a head nod to the U.S. Army Air Force and the Royal Air Force that was supporting from the skies above, and then also the U.S. cavalry groups. Now, these are all of the Allied forces that were engaged in Luxembourg in general. And then if we go out here, here's another plaque that says, "To the honor and in memory of our Allied liberators and all those who contributed to restore liberty and justice." And then over here, well, this is dedicated specifically to the Allied units that fought in this area from December of 44 to January of 45. So we have the 28th Infantry Division that again was just completely shattered in this fight. And then the 26th Infantry Division that we just took a look at their positions. Okay, the 90th and the 6th U.S. Cavalry Group. Okay, so all of these men played a key role in liberating these people from Nazi tyranny. One of the things that I've said before is that when it comes to the Battle of the Bulge, there is a heavy emphasis that gets placed on the siege of Bastogne. And a lot of these stories from around the perimeter tend to get lost in the shuffle, but I'm pretty passionate about learning more about these divisions and about these units that were engaged and contributed to the overall victory that took place here in December of 44 and January of 45. So anyway, that was a little bit on the 26th Division right here at the crossroads at Schumann's Eck.